Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Break Podcast, where our mission here is to share business ideas, practices, and strategies while we enjoy our cup of coffee. And today, our guest is returning.
Yes.
It's almost like we never left.
Like we never left.
But a second episode. The Enneagram is a really in-depth topic, so we thought that it would take a little more than one episode to handle it all. So
I appreciate you letting me come on and talk about the Enneagram.
Yeah, well, we're glad that you were able to hang around for another episode. So we're going to jump into more of the characteristics and how they apply to the workplace in just a few minutes with our guest, Andrea.
It's good.
Gosh, I got it messed up again.
That's okay.
Isaacs.
Yep.
We'll be back right after this.
That's right.
We got so much to say. We got a podcast to make. We're sipping on lattes, and it's time for a coffee break. It's time for a coffee break. Oh, yeah.
All right, welcome back, Andrea. Now, here's the situation.
Okay.
We're not going to make you go through rapid fire again.
Okay.
So
that's fine.
I'm letting you off the hook this time.
It
was mostly a lazy move on my end because I didn't want to come up with 5 additional questions.
I should do rapid fire to you.
This doesn't work that way.
Let's do it.
All right, let's move on. So we're going to get into you're another guest that has tried to ask me questions. I've tried to explain that's not how this conversation goes.
We can't do it that way? Okay.
No. All right, so let's jump into the topic of Enneagram. So that's an ongoing joke around here.
Okay.
About the different types. So in our previous episode, really broke down what it is, why it's important, how it's relevant, all of those things. So if you are confused as to what in the world we're talking about, check out the episode previous to this one.
Yeah.
But in this one, we're going to really dive into each of the types, characteristics, and how they work or how they apply in the workplace.
That's exactly right.
All right.
So we're going to take a look. I think the big question for anybody, especially in an organization, leadership, is Enneagram, great. What in the world am I supposed to do with it?
Sure.
So we wanted to really make it as practical as possible in this episode and look at each of the types and how can a boss, but also employees working with one another, how can they use the Enneagram to make their work environment as productive as possible, as enjoyable, and really ultimately as healthy as possible.
Yes.
So can we just jump right in?
Let's jump in. So there's 9 types.
That's right.
We're going to start at the top with
number 1. We're going to start at type 1.
Yeah.
So your type 1s, just a few kind of descriptors for them is these are your meticulous kind of rule following individuals. I like to say they are like born with a sense of right and wrong. And then if someone gives them rules or guidelines, they just love it because they want to operate within those boundaries and it is a safe place for them. So ones in an organization are going to be highly motivated to do what their boss asks of them. They don't want to disappoint. They want to be held to a higher standard. And really, they kind of call the rest of us higher. And they operate from a place of being motivated by goodness. What is good in the world? What is right and wrong? And so some do's that you want to have if you're working with ones is that you want to lean into their remarkable talent for spotting mistakes.
Okay.
Instead of being frustrated that they notice, the misspelled words in the company email that just went out to 5,000 people, you probably should have had them take a look at it first before you sent it out. But it is a superpower, honestly, that they can walk into a room and recognize, something that is wrong, and they're not doing it in a negative or spiteful way. They can't help it.
Yeah, I was watching a panel about this, and there was like these 3 guys that were all ones, and they were talking about the fact that they all had uniquely identified early through their careers that they had 3 different pens: a red pen, like a blue pen, and a black pen, and that they would do this to help correct documents. And at a point in time, they identified that they were offending people by correcting them.
Yes.
But their whole intent was just to say, well, this was incorrect and it needs to be done better.
We can make it better.
Yeah.
We can make it better.
And they never understood that they were
hurting people's feelings or ruffling feathers. That's exactly right. So in our organizations, if we can learn to value that instead of being threatened by it or frustrated by it, man, they're just going to make all of us better. Yeah. They're going to make our workplaces better. I mean, and it's even simple things like, why is the coffee stored that way? That's really inefficient. Let's come in here and clean this up. They're just great. Cords. Why we got cords hanging all over the place? Let's let's streamline that and make it a little bit better. So we want to sharpen ourselves by allowing ones to have that kind of voice. It just makes them feel good. So something that might exhaust someone else to come in and organize or clean up or make better, it really actually kind of excites a one. And that's kind of cool. So that's something you want to do. You want to lean into that. Something you don't want to do is correct a one in front of everybody else.
Yeah.
Do not call them out. They are already constantly dealing with kind of an internal critic and already assuming that something is not good enough or that they have not done something right.
Yep.
And so for someone to embarrass them, now nobody wants to be called out in public, but especially do not do that with a one. Pull them to the side. Hey, listen, this is something that I noticed, and can we... That's going to go over much, much better.
What's the result if you do publicly correct a one?
Oh, my word. First of all, they may lash out at you and punch you in the face in front of the entire staff. It's just not going to go well. So it's going to make them super, super embarrassed and angry, and it will take them some time to recover from that. But more than that, it's just it's not building trust. It's not putting them in a position where they can trust the people that they're around and feel safe. So I would say, that is huge. And don't let ones redo the work that someone else has done incorrectly.
Interesting.
Right. So allow a one to maybe come in and help, or how would you do this differently, or what would you change, or was there anything, but do not let them go in and clean up the mess.
Why is that?
Because they will do it every single time, and it's exhausting for the one, and it is not helping the rest of your staff be held accountable for their own work. If they know that the one is always just going to come in and fix it, do it, show up early, stay late, that's just not healthy environments to put our employees in.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. Being mindful of time, I know we've got 8 more to go through. Yeah. So those are very keen insights for the type 1. Let's go to type 2.
So a type 2 is kind of traditionally classified as being your helper. Type 2s walk into a room and they really do. They are that person who's like, what can I get for you? Would you like a sandwich? How can I help you? These people are great in service industries. So these are your people who you want them out front, interacting with people. They love answering, not all of them. I don't want to operate in stereotypes. These are suggestions,
sure.
But you want to put them where they're interacting with people. They're going to be great on a phone call. They're going to be great greeting people at a door. They're going to be great in hospitality.
Gotcha.
Any roles where they get to love on people, serve people, help people, that is fulfilling for them.
So we talked about this kind of in the previous episode,
sure.
Setting this up, but kind of that default mode for
yeah.
it too is they're identifying the needs of others, or they're wanting to make sure everybody else has a good experience.
That's exactly right. And so what you want to do is put them in places where they get to be around people a lot, loving on people, caring for people, leveraging that superpower of just amazing interpersonal skills and their ability to be relational. They want your approval. So if a 2 is like, I showed up with Chick-fil-A for the whole staff today, and everybody's like, that's so sweet. They really do need you to be like, wow, thank you for loving on us. Thank you for taking care of us. You're always so thoughtful. That just means the world to them. So make sure that you're appreciating those efforts that you see in them. Don't take them for granted. Do not take a 2's willingness to help for granted. So you always want to be giving them permission to help, but also permission to say no, maybe kind of help them learn some of those boundaries.
Gotcha.
Hey, listen, we've got a project. I want you to help us with the Christmas party, but don't do it on your own. Let's build a team.
Gotcha.
You don't have to do it by yourself. Let's get some people around you, and I know it's going to be great.
So they're not naturally good at setting their own boundaries or recognizing
No,
those.
They'll be like, I'll make the turkey by myself and all 5 pies from scratch, and they're
Yeah.
gonna go all out, but then probably be a little bit resentful on the backside of it. So help them to and this is a great tip. Anytime you're interacting with a 2, whenever possible, try to connect with them as a person first before you ask of them. So it's worth the 5 or 10 minutes to talk about their kids or to check in on, something for them of personal interest before you launch in. Now, they're going to do whatever the thing is that you ask of them, but give that little bit of intentionality to the relationship first.
What are some things that you want to avoid with twos?
Definitely criticizing them too harshly. They probably are a little bit more wounded because they're putting so much of their heart into what they're doing and caring for people.
Okay.
And so just being aware of their, their emotions. Twos are big time feelers. So they are carrying the weight of, the whole group dynamics emotions,
Yeah.
So they're going to feel that.
Now, you were mentioning earlier before we started recording that there are some different, I'm probably butchering this, but did you say quadrants of kind of emotions?
They're triads.
Triads, okay.
Yeah, so you've got 8, 9, and 1 grouped together. They're in the gut triad, and they they just experience things very physically. Basically, I would say it like this: they process information physically. So whatever input they're taking in, it's happening, and they're making decisions very physically. You might hear someone say something like, "I just have a gut instinct." About that. 2s, 3s, and 4s, they're in the heart triad, so they're processing everything through emotions. They're taking in emotional information. They're making decisions emotionally. So that is good to have a pulse on that, but maybe also holding 2s accountable for those emotions.
Got it. All right. So type 3.
3s are usually our standout employees because they are our typical business world, what we would think of as a stereotype. Highly motivated by incentives, super competitive, very, very mindful and aware of success. And so employees, companies love to have these people around because they are the get it done people. And they look good getting it done. So the 3s, we want them empowered to win. We want them, chasing down the success and helping all of those big dreams and visions that we have for our organizations. Like 3s are the ones who are making it happen, and they're doing it with a bang. So definitely want to empower, and you want to offer rewards, incentives. These are the people who are going to appreciate a bonus. They're going to appreciate promotion and are highly motivated by that. But you don't want them to cut corners in order to get it done. So a 3 oftentimes can prioritize the win over the team. Mm-hmm. They can prioritize the win over the process. So really, really making sure that your 3s, are not cutting corners. Don't let them cut corners.
So they could have the ability to try to shortcut a level of success.
That's right.
I heard someone describe that as, 3s understand where success needs to be, and they figure out the shortest way to get there.
That's exactly right.
Regardless of if it's the right way to get there.
100%. Yeah. So a healthy 3 has really cultivated integrity and has really cultivated, but it's so good when a 3, a 3 is in a good place when they can award the entire team, attribute the entire team with the win, as opposed to, my sales last week were through the roof, when they can acknowledge that it took more than just themselves. So that's good. Something you do not want to do, we said, is not cutting corners, but also not letting them run over their coworkers in order to get to the goal.
Just a reminder, you're listening to the Coffee Break Podcast. Also, we wanted to let you know that our team puts together a weekly blog post. You can find it at locdoc.net/blog. It's guaranteed to raise your IQ by 12 points or your money back. So it's pretty much a win-win. All right, back to the conversation.
So that is very interesting. So very highly motivated. They like the incentives and just the kind of the idea of success.
Yeah.
And they often figure out ways to get to that point faster.
Yes. And 3s are, if we kind of compare to the statement what I just said about 2s, where you maybe want to connect relationally, maybe have a question or two about their kids before you talk shop. 3s are the opposite. 3s are like, what are we doing? Where's the to-do list? When are we? And we'll get personal later, but there's work to be done. So like if you give a 3 to-do list, they are not intimidated. They're empowered.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't mind the interpersonal relationship as long as it doesn't get in the way of the to-do list.
Definitely. I have to tell this story. So one of my best friends is a 3. We will literally have like hang out, like family nights for dinner or whatever. She's like, yeah, that's good. Can we come to my house? I'm cushioning my sofa, and you're like, okay, awesome. There is always, a task that can be worked on side by side of the personal stuff.
Gotcha. So they're the kind that say, hey, come over for dinner tonight because I need you to help me move this couch.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. We're going to be refinishing my back deck while you're here. But it's good.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Type 4.
Yes, type 4s, man. The type 4s, I maybe have a soft spot in my heart for the type 4s because they just see so much beauty in the world.
Okay.
These are, again, I don't want to operate on stereotypes, just recognizing patterns maybe is a better way to say it. 4s typically are going to be your just ultra creative. These are great team members to have because they are not just creating great content in writing, in art, in all of those avenues, but they are also able to understand how that is going to be received. So if you've got a 4 on your team and you're trying to create a commercial, or you're working on some new marketing or branding, not only are they going to be great at the actual design side of it, they are also going to have a pulse on how is that going to make people feel when they watch that commercial, when they experience that type of marketing or whatever. And that's a win. I mean, that is critical to have on your team.
Yeah.
But 4s, okay, so you do want to have 4s on your team and empower them to be creative. You do not want to box 4s in. You need to give them a little bit of autonomy to have that creativity. And you also do not ever want to tell a 4 to like get over it.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, like they...
I'm supposed to say I've made that mistake before.
Sure, fair enough. We probably all have. So I would encourage, 4s, the types of emotions that they're experiencing are very, very real. To help a 4, you might help them clarify fact from feeling. And that's pretty powerful.
So we could talk about 4s for a long time, but I'm going to refrain from it because
keep moving us along.
That may be a whole another conversation.
I'm with you.
Help them clarify fact from feelings. That's a great point to know. I'm just trying to take some notes here because I really want to try to stay on top of how we're progressing through this. It's very interesting. Just even through the first 4 types that we've talked about so far, they're very unique.
Yes,
and the way that you address them, the way that you connect with them, the way that you help them through life is going to be completely different.
And if we are not intimidated by that, but embracing of that, man, talk about having just a vibrant workspace where people feel valued, people feel seen, people feel purposeful, and they recognize what they bring to the team instead of feeling like, I know at times I have felt like I've had to apologize. Yeah. Like I'm sorry for being, fill in the blank. And it's not a blanket, like get out of jail free card. Like, well, I'm just a 4, it's not that. It's just awareness that helps us all to see when do we need to lean into a healthier version and kind of fight for that versus like, wow, this is what I am gifted to do. And this is what is good for me to offer.
I think that's one of the, prominent points that I have picked up on with the Enneagram is that there's the healthy version and the unhealthy version.
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to take a few minutes to just kind of dive into that, and then we'll jump back into type 5. But I think that's something important to be mindful of.
Yes.
That there are a major difference between the two. Just because you're a certain type, there's some variance on that.
Yeah, I think the fastest answer, because again, that could be its own segment. Healthy and unhealthy. I can have like a moment of stress, where my kids are making me crazy, and I can see a glimpse of what my unhealthy tendencies are, or I could have like an entire season of my life where I am just out of whack.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on that. But the short way to say it is the Enneagram has opened my eyes. I heard someone describe it one time. It's like the guardrails or what do you call those bumps on the highway? Like when you're about to veer off lane. You know what I'm talking about? And it's like,
yep.
But what's the word for that? I can't think of the word.
The wake up, you're about to go off
That's
the road.
Those ridges.
That's
yes.
the specific
technical
term.
term. Mm-hmm. Yeah. When that happens and it just kind of like makes us go like, oh, okay, let me get back in my lane. That is a little bit how the Enneagram can help you by providing that awareness, that kind of bump in the road, the ridges, the like, oh, I need to wake up right here. I am slipping into some unhealth. Things like that.
Gotcha. All right. So let's jump into type 5.
Yeah. Type 5s. So I have to just go ahead and tell you, I am married to a self, identified type 5. And so they obviously are super special, and I have a lot of familiarity with type 5s, but typically they are your more observers in life.
Okay.
They're kind of watching what's happening in the rest of the world and really kind of breaking it down in their minds. So the stereotype of a 5 is like they just love books, and maybe they're like kind of that academic professor type where they just have an immense amount of knowledge about something. But we also see them a lot in technical fields where they just really are a wealth of knowledge on whatever their niche is.
Okay.
And they can deep dive on some stuff. And I also think it is important to kind of be aware when a 5 has reached a decision on something, it is probably pretty awesome. Like it is probably the right decision because they have analyzed and worked it out and thought it through and like really kind of done the mind work. And so once they land, whether it is like a conviction about something or a specific way of going about something or a how to, I mean, like you can pretty much take it to the bank.
Are they typically slow at making decisions like that? Or is it, I mean, you're saying that when they finally get to one.
Yes, I think it's the natural wiring of a 5 is I don't have enough information yet. Like, so there is this hunger, almost like an avarice, like a greed for I need more time, I need more energy, I need more resources, I need more information, I need more fill in the blank. And they never even really are quite 100% there. But yeah, here's a great tip. Okay. So in the workplace, do not put a 5 on the spot.
Yep.
Okay. Like, all right, we're going to give you 5 minutes to give us your presentation on this thing that we've just introduced and have just recently started talking about. Don't do that. Here's what you should do. Go to a 5 and say, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to be looking at switching our database system, and I need you to come with like possible scenarios of which one and tell me which one you think, and you're going to present that to the rest of the staff. Solid gold.
Gotcha. Like
solid gold. They are going to like go all the way. And really, honestly, you can pretty much trust what they come back with in whatever that scenario is. It's going to be great. But give them, a heads up. Or let's take it out of the presentation context. Maybe it's a problem that needs to be solved. We keep having this glitch, coming up. Can you figure out why that is? Can you and let me know? Yeah. Like give me a budget, give me some prices, and really honestly, I need you to give me 3 different options.
Gotcha.
Like you can be that specific, and they're going to come back with some really, really good stuff.
So a major researcher likes to analyze, process a lot of information, but you don't want to short circuit it. You don't want to say, you got to give me this answer right now based off of the information that you have in your head. You need time, give them enough time to breathe and process it,
and it's going to be good. And then on the back end of that whole entire idea, don't blow them off when they come to you with the solution.
Okay.
Like, if you have asked for their opinion, if you have asked them to solve the problem, if you have asked them to do that, like the worst thing you could do is then not follow it, like not take their advice, their opinion, whatever.
So if you disagree with it, how would you?
I would work through it, and you're going to have to kind of come strong with some analytics about why that isn't going to be the route that you take.
I got you. So if you've given them time to prepare that information, and now they've brought it to you, you're going to have pretty solid argument or analytics to.
Or you're going to have a pretty uptight, frustrated employee on your hands. That's exactly right.
Interesting. All right.
The last little
Yes.
don't, just to throw this out there, you got to give fives a chance to recharge on your team. Okay, so don't put them in a high traffic area if at all possible. Like, it is a little bit okay to like let them go hide out in an office, in a closet, in a whatever, because they're doing that deep diving, and that takes brain power, that takes energy, that takes, and so like if they're in a spot where people are gonna be asking them questions, interrupting them, coming at that, it's just a little bit annoying. But if there's a day like if you say, all right, listen, Mondays are team days, and we're all feeding off of each other, and we're all like, they can at least prepare for that, but it can't be that way all the time.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Coffee Break Podcast. If this information has been helpful to you, or you just really kind of like our theme song, can you help us out by rating us on whatever app you're using? And if you get really fancy, how about sharing a screenshot on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or LinkedIn? Okay, enough of all this. Let's get back to the conversation.
All right. I've got more questions on that later, but
okay,
let's get to
we'll
type
keep
6.
rolling. We'll keep rolling. Okay, so 6s. All right. So here's the deal. 6s are keeping the rest of us alive.
Okay.
All right. 6s are your individuals who naturally, they cannot help it. They naturally think every possible scenario that could play out. So it's like, it might rain and our tires don't have enough tread, and that rain could turn to ice, and then the ices on the roads are going to slide. We probably need some snow tires as well. Like, they are mapping it all out, and they cannot make it stop.
Gotcha.
They are also, especially for an organization, incredibly loyal. So these are your employees who are going to be on your team, in your organization, for 30 plus years, because once they find that spot, they just have a deep commitment and a deep desire for community, honestly.
Gotcha.
So, but 6s don't trust themselves. So 6s are going to come at you with a lot of questions, and they really need to know that the authority that they are, whether it's that they're kind of submitting to or they're working under, is trustworthy. And so it might take a while, or feel like it takes a while, to earn the trust of a 6. Mm-hmm. But man, once you have it, like, they will go down on the ship with you. Yeah. So it's important to let them ask those questions. And then once you've made a decision, like as a team or as a, staff or whatever the case may be, it's okay to say to a 6, okay, now listen, we worked through that. This was the decision we came to. We're going to stick with that.
Gotcha.
Because there's just always that little bit of second guessing that is happening. So let them ask all the questions.
Okay.
And then be transparent. Sometimes 6s get a bad rap. Like, people think that they can't handle tough information because they already kind of come across like worriers. But it's the opposite. They can handle like a very straightforward truth. Yeah. They actually appreciate the transparency. It makes them trust you more. Yep. They're bullcrap-o-meters. Can I say bullcrap? Is that okay? Are we allowed with?
That's a pretty solid. Yeah.
Okay. They're like bullcrap-o-meter through the roof. Like, they can read it like so fast. They're like, why is that person being fake? Yeah. So be transparent. Let them ask the questions. You can shoot it straight. They can handle it. Do not ignore them when they find a flaw. Very similar to the ones like we talked about. If a 6 finds a crack in the system, don't ignore it. Because, they're going to sit back and watch it fall apart. Yeah. They'll be like, I tried to tell you. Yeah. This was going to be a problem. So pay attention to those things. Don't ignore them. And on the same token, don't let them slip into analysis, like paralysis by analysis. Gotcha. They need a deadline. We're going to make a decision and we're going to move forward. Don't get stuck.
Okay. So they can have paralysis analysis. Yeah. I like that term. That's interesting.
Don't let them have paralysis by analysis.
All right. So type 7.
Okay. 7s. 7s are pretty easy to spot because they are your energy life source in an organization. All they are the ones who are, when they walk into the room, it tends to kind of light up and be more enthusiastic and more energized and fun. I mean, there's not a 7 on the planet who does not overuse the word fun or awesome.
All right.
I mean, that is their go-to. They love to be involved on the front end of an idea.
Okay.
So 7s are going to be energized by the creating process. So that those early conversations of dreaming big and thinking ahead and planning about something, they can make anything exciting.
Okay.
So, but bring them in on the process early on of that part.
The brainstorming
part.
They're not actually going to get it done, but
right. But they're going to get everybody else real excited about it. And then, it's going to probably have to be handed off to someone who can follow through. But they need a long leash in an organization. Okay. So I'm gonna sound like I'm talking out of two sides of my mouth, but I think I can bring some clarity. You need to give a 7 a long leash, and maybe let them have some freedom that maybe some of your other staff members might not have. Because they really, when a 7 is healthy and in the zone, like, they will do things that will blow you out of the water.
Yep.
On the flip side, you need some kind of process for holding them accountable. So it's like a long leash, but there's still a leash. So you got to hold their feet to the fire, give them some deadlines, but give them a lot of free reign to do it.
Okay.
And you'll have a great end product. But hold their feet to the fire. Like, don't let them wiggle out, because they'll use their charisma to like, oh yeah, I've got that. It'll be great. Just trust me. It'll be good. No, I need to see the process or progress that you've made.
Got it.
So hold them to that. And they are also, this is so great. So 7s sometimes get a bad rap for, because they are a little bit like the comic relief, that they don't have depth, or that they are, and that's not true.
Yeah.
7s actually, of all the types, have the fastest working minds of all of the Enneagram types. Like, their brain is like all the time. So you can actually give them large bodies of information to work with, data, information, things like that. And they can find patterns and connect the dots inside those complex bodies of knowledge that other types don't see or would miss.
Interesting.
So, lean into that, and don't let them downplay when they drop the ball.
Okay.
That's tough.
Yeah.
So, like, if a 7 is don't let them like wallpaper or like gloss over. Like, if they missed the mark or didn't come through on something, like, you gotta work through that with them, and help them just see what it feels like to really finish something all the way through.
Okay.
Yep.
That's very insightful.
Yeah.
All right. So some do's with the 7 is give them the freedom and the space to be creative.
Yes.
Get them involved because they do like to brainstorm, but also have some very firm deadlines and guidelines associated with it. And then if they fail to meet those, then make sure that that's a big issue, not just a glossed over, okay, well, we'll get it next time type thing.
Right. That's exactly right.
Because we won't.
That's right. Yeah. No, they'll keep on doing the same thing.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so type 8.
That's great. So type 8s are your highest energy on the entire Enneagram system. Okay, so you've got 7s, 8s, and 3s are all what we would consider an aggressive stance. They are the highest energies of all of the types. And then 8s are the highest of the highs.
Okay.
So we typically see them as very commanding. Their presence is known in a room. One of the lines I always hear is about Frank Sinatra, who was considered a type 8, that you could feel him walking into the room 15 miles away.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the 8s are big personalities. They are very, very a commanding presence.
Okay.
And obviously great leaders in an organization, but they're incredibly impassioned about everything. Like, there is nothing that an 8 can't be intense about. And so they're going to, if they are not the authority in an organization, they're going to test the authority in the organization, and they're going to kind of push back and figure out where their limits are. And if they easily kind of bowl over the authority in the organization, that's going to be problematic. And they are totally okay with whoever is in charge, like, calling them out.
Yeah.
Like saying, so they're the exact opposite of a 1. If you're in a staff meeting and an 8 is not getting it done, like, it's okay to kind of challenge them back a little bit. Mm-hmm. And they probably would even like appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, again, no one wants to be berated or criticized, to an nth degree, but they can handle it better than any of the other types. They're straight shooters. They are like, let's do this thing. Have a very strong sense that they can. I always say 8s are going to set the world on fire, or they're like going to set the world on fire.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you got to channel all that energy. You got to get them on board with the right cause, or else they're going to it's going to go up in flames.
Yeah.
So always tell them the truth. Make sure when you're dealing with an 8 that you are not sugarcoating it, because they're going to feel like that is disingenuine.
Yeah.
And then what you don't want to do is waffle. If you've said as the organizational leader, like, this is the direction we're going, or this is what we're doing, don't waffle. Like, an 8 will sniff that out so fast.
Yeah.
So they really, really need you to commit to a course of action.
So they can be really good champions in an organization if you
Absolutely.
get them on the right track or the right channel.
That's right. That's exactly right. And don't let them take action too quickly. So like with an 8, you've got to have them recognize that if they go too fast, like, they're blazing a path and like burning people in the process.
Gotcha.
So help them out with that.
It's almost like they're on that mission. They're excited about it. Like you said, they're very commanding, but if they aren't self-aware, then they're just bullying over people without even realizing it.
And here, I always love to say this when I have a chance with 8s. They can get a bad rap for being so intense. But again, all of the things that could be perceived as a downside really are a strength if we know what to do with them.
Yep.
So I say it like this: 8s are not bullies. Like, they're not the ones they are actually the champion of the person being bullied. If you can think of it like that.
Okay.
Like, they're not afraid. They're in like, historically, like, they're going to change the world by being political activists.
Okay.
By being the person who's like, that's not right. You can't treat people like that. I'm coming after you. So they are super strong, and but they're not looking to like knock people out.
They can be bullish. They're not bullies.
There you go. That's a great way to say it. Great way to say it. That's very good.
So, and again, goes back to, you want to have these people in your organization as champions. That's because they can really
get some stuff done.
Ignite some things and
Powerful.
get on. But you just have to make sure that they're aware on both sides. Very interesting. All right. So the last type 9.
So great, and so fitting that the 9s would be the last ones that we talk about, because 9s are typically okay with sitting back.
Okay.
They are the peacemakers of the world. They are absolutely, above anything else, looking to maintain stability, maintain calm, maintain peace, equilibrium, like status quo, all of those things. And that's positive in an environment, because you need some people who can handle some HR stuff. If there is tension in the workplace, if there is everyone's being bullheaded.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to have some of those calming factors who can get behind ideas and really, these are the people who don't need credit. They want to be appreciated. They want to be acknowledged, but they're not fighting for that kind of recognition.
Gotcha.
Just really, really good quality people. So 9s, you want to make sure that you give them very clear expectations and goals, because they're not typically self-starters. They're not typically, now, more than willing to help. Great team players, great people in your organization. If you are helping them to see the to-do list, they're probably not writing the to-do list.
They're not
themselves.
coming up with the plan, but
That's
they
right.
will carry it out
They
like
will.
a champ.
They absolutely will, and they're going to do it without ruffling feathers. So you also
and probably not a lot of complaints either.
That's exactly right.
They just know that there's a task and they're going to get it done.
And they're going to get it done. That's exactly right. You also need to invite them to the conversation, because they are not going to offer it up naturally. They're absolutely going to let everyone else speak, and probably they're thinking, my opinion doesn't matter. My opinion isn't needed. My opinion, I don't even honestly know what my opinion is. Like, sometimes you'll even experience that with a 9.
Yep.
But if you can create a safe environment, a healthy, workspace where you start to bring them into the conversation, I mean, just so much wisdom, because they've been sitting around watching everything. And so when they finally offer up a thought, you usually will find yourself going, That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I never thought of it like that. They have this unique vantage point because they can see where everyone else is coming from. 9s are also going to be great. If you're looking to make a change in your organization, you need to run it by a 9 because they're going to know exactly how that's going to go over with every single person.
Okay. So they have a keen awareness of how it impacts people.
So valuable. So valuable. If there is, a major conflict happening, and you need some like unbiased perspective, like the 9 is going to be able to offer that and can kind of literally, you'll hear them say things like, well, I can see their side and I can see that side too, which is, again, if we treat it like an asset, that's a great thing. That's valuable. They need time to process. So similar to the 5s, do not put a 9 on the spot if at all possible. Give them like a heads up. Hey, next Monday in our staff meeting, I'm going to be talking about this. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I'm going to be asking people to,
Gotcha.
Anything that you can do preemptively is going to give them time to process. And again, it's all about building trust. So in your organizations, you're looking to have your team buy in and trust and be on the same page. And a 9 can feel very threatened, and to the point to like it really stirs up some like internal anger if they're being put on the spot, if they're being asked to so do that, give them time, and don't ask them to make quick decisions.
All right. So those are very, very no quick decisions. Noting that.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is if other people are listening to this while we're having this conversation, as I am, I'm processing this and I'm going, okay, I know I'm processing the team in my head, and I'm like, okay, there are 2, there are 5,
kind of know where they're at, kind of see
6 or 7. Yeah.
Sure.
And I'm kind of putting those people in those categories and those types, and understanding that makes sense. Why?
Yes, you can see where the conflict happened, or why the ball got dropped, or why this played out that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And understanding that, it really can help to, as you're putting a team together, because any healthy organization is built off of a good team.
Yes.
Then you can really see how one of the books that I've read recently is Traction, and one of the big things that they talk about is the right people in the right seat on the bus.
On the bus, yeah.
And it really comes back to this too, because if you have going back to some of your types here, you've got a 5 in a position where they're constantly having to make decisions rapidly. They are just going to
it's draining them.
Oh man, they're not going to be able to handle it for a long period of time.
Yeah.
But at the same point, if you have somebody on needs to have a very focused task, it's a very repetitive transactional type task, and I would think it was at a 2, right? Then they're wanting to interact with people all the time, then they're going to be
discouraged,
miserable as well. Maybe they have the skill set to do it, but if they're not interacting with people,
it's not making them come alive.
Yeah, they're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
So it's very impactful understanding that side of it. But then as you bring people together in a room working for a common cause, understanding how they see things and how they handle things, the way that they answer questions, the way that they give you insights are going to be completely different based off of some of these strengths.
So good. It's so good. And I hope that's powerful for whatever place you find yourself, whether you're leading the organization, you're on a team. But I think the most critical shift is those things that might have a tendency to annoy us about the people that we work with. If there is a way to start seeing that as that's what they bring to the table, how do I leverage that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a game changer.
It is. When you can find ways to leverage the good that people bring to the table and minimize that thing that they're not great with. I mean, if you have somebody that's naturally a good, quick decision maker, and someone that's not, then don't put them in that position. Like that, you're just asking for frustration and annoyance. So it's very, very insightful. Thank you very much for this. I think if there's anybody that's dealing with a team at any level, any size team or growing organization or any type of leadership position, this is very powerful and impactful information that I think you can take it and you can run with it and apply it, or you can ignore it.
Yeah.
It's still going to be there.
Sure. That's a great point.
You're still going to have to deal with conflicts with people over time, but if you can kind of get ahead of what's happening, then I think you're definitely setting yourself up for a better success down the road.
That's right.
All right. Thank you very much again for your time. This was part 2. If you missed part 1, it's the episode previous to this one, and it talks really about the why and the definition behind all of that. Before we break away, if anybody wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way?
Oh man, come check it out on AndreaIsaacs.com. That is the easiest way, and lots of good, interesting content happening. That's blog space for me. Also, Andrea Joy Isaacs at Enneagram, or I guess I should say at Andrea Joy Isaacs. You can find me on Enneagram or on Instagram. Too many grams on Instagram. Send me a direct message. Let me know. I'd love to chat. If you have a specific question, I'd love to help you out. I also do a lot of work with staffs and teams. So there's opportunities for that. And again, you can find all of that brochure information on AndreaIsaacs.com.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I really appreciate it. This has been powerful. We were joking earlier. I know you've taken time out of your schedule to be with us. On the first episode, I indicated that you drove all the way down here from Kentucky just to be on the podcast.
That's right.
And obviously that was not the case to be here with family, but we really appreciate you taking time away from family to be here because
it's a blast.
It's very impactful. So for those of you who are listening or watching for the first time, I challenge you to go check out Season 1 and Season 2. We've got 70 episodes that are massively beneficial with guests and topics that are relevant to business ideas, practices, and strategies. And we encourage you to go check that out. If you haven't already, it's locdoc.net/podcast. And you can subscribe to all the podcast platforms there. And this episode, as well as all of our other episodes, are available in video format on YouTube and Facebook. All you have to do is search for Loc-Doc and podcast, and a lot of them will come up for you to check out, and you can get in the playlist and watch all of those and get information there as well. If you're listening to this on iTunes, we ask you to give us a 5-star review and leave some comments in the section below so that we can know that you're listening. These 2 episodes that we've done here have been very impactful and very informative for any business owner or business leader for that matter, and will be very impactful for you if you can take this information and apply it. And that's the entire purpose that we have this conversation every single Tuesday for you, so that you can take this information and apply it to make your business better. So with all that said, again, thank you, Andrea, for your time, and we will see you next time on the Coffee Break Podcast.